morning and welcome. Such a beautiful day. Glad to see all of you here. I'm Ann Fullerton, member of Music and Worship, and I am welcoming all visitors, members, guests, anyone that is not a member that is here just to visit. Welcome. Please plan on staying afterwards and enjoy coffee and cookies with us. It's an opportunity for us to get to know you. So please consider staying. We'd love to get to know you better. I have one brief announcement, and this is concerning the home-hosted meals or dinners. And we're going to have one early this year, and it is the tour of the Tomatoes and Gazpacho, hosted by Mish Batty and David Bosworth on December 14th. So it's early, and we wanted to have next weekend your opportunity to bid on this. It sounds like a fun day. So it will be out on the patio after service. So please remember that and vote, or not vote, but bid on that next weekend. So we're here. We're all happy, healthy. Glad to see you all, and I welcome you all. Thank you.
I bid you welcome. My name is the Reverend Jennifer Dant. For those who are visiting and our guests, I am not the minister here, but I am a member of this congregation, this community. So it is my honor to be your worship associate today and give Reverend Tony Fisher, our full-time minister, a day off. I also would like to introduce the speaker for today, Roger Grugel, who is also a minister in preliminary fellowship. He will be ordained, save the date, February 22nd in Fort Myers by his sponsoring congregation. So I'm looking forward to his message today. High above you, the sun shines, and beyond its glory, the stars of night hide in the daytime sky. Below your feet, worms out of their bodies remake the soil, and at the center the earth still simmers with its first fire. Somewhere between the stars and the earth's core, we live and weep, we ask and laugh and answer. How can we not be amazed? Let the light and darkness bless each other. May it bless us as we worship together this morning. Our first hymn is number 188. Bill is going to play it through once. Come, come, whoever you are. I believe we actually sang it last week. And we will sing it 3 times. So, Bill? Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit, touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, the fire of community, the fire of justice, the fire of faith. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life. As Roger lights our chalice and also the children's chalice, please join me in the response found in your order of service. Each morning we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back. Is it not working? I suddenly have great compassion for our children who usually do this.
A Taoist farmer had only one horse, and one day the horse ran away.
Oh, that's awful.
The farmer said, "What makes you think that's so terrible?"
Well, like the neighbor said, it's a terrible loss. His only horse is gone.
But wait, a month later, the horse came home, this time bringing with her 2 beautiful wild horses. The neighbors became excited at the farmer's good fortune.
How wonderful. 3 strong, lovely horses.
The farmer said, "What makes you think this is good fortune?"
Come on now. How can he not be happy? He has 3 horses.
Yeah, but the farmer's son was thrown from one of the wild horses and broke his leg. All the neighbors were very distressed.
All right, I see. Not such good luck. Not so good.
The farmer said, "What makes you think it is bad?"
How can it not be bad? He is in pain. His son could get a clot. His leg might not heal right. Surely this farmer cannot find something good in this.
Wait. A war came, and every able-bodied man was conscripted and sent into battle. Only the farmer's son, because he had a broken leg, remained. The neighbors congratulated the farmer. "What makes you think this is good?" said the farmer.
Oh my goodness, what is this farmer's deal? Who is this farmer?
Well, this farmer is a Taoist, and the Taoist prefers to look at life events without judgment or interpretation. And according to Taoism, the true significance of events can never be understood as they are occurring. For in every event, there are elements of both good and bad. Furthermore, each event has no specific beginning or end and may influence future events for years or even centuries to come.
You know, this sounds a little bit like that interconnected web we're always talking about.
Well, that's right. And this story reminds us that when things happen and tug on that interdependent web, we always don't know where the vibrations will take us.
All right, so maybe that farmer's pretty smart after all.
Indeed he is.
At this time in the service, we ask to share our joys and sorrows, remembering that joys shared multiply while sorrows shared become half. I'll bring a mic around for anyone who has something to share.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Mary Conklin. Some of you know me. I haven't been coming very long, but I work in an animal shelter, and I've been working there for 5 or 6 months. And in that time, 5 of the 6 dogs who have been adopted in the last week or 2. So they're kind of flying off the shelves, which is really wonderful to see. Hope that brings some light to everybody's day.
Thank you. For the joy spoken, we hold you in our hearts. For the joys and sorrows, concerns not spoken, may we hold one another in our hearts this week and this day. Second hymn, Spirit of Life. Number 123. In the spirit of meditation and prayer, I share the words of colleague and friend Naomi King, a former Florida minister who's now back in Maine. Take this moment to breathe deeply, settle in your seats, connect with that's larger with yourself, whatever the name, and remember that every day we experience hunger and yearning for food, for approval, for respect, for love, for meaningful work, for any and enough work, for home, family, and friends, health, healing, for hope, for the departed and for the newly arrived, for the green trees, for the cool, clean waters, for shade in the heat of the day, and for stars to light the velvet night. And we also take this time to remember that every day we are invited anew to be thankful for food, approval, for respect, for love, for meaningful work, any and enough work, home, family, thankful for friends, for health, for healing, for hope, for the departed and for the newly arrived, for the green trees, for the cool, clean waters, for shade in the heat of the day, and for stars to light the velvet night. Our hearts beating in liberating flight, we soar in gratitude this day for all the gifts we have in this lifetime of being, and turn again to share this bounty with all that is. We will take a minute for silent meditation and prayer.
Please join me for our responsive reading, number 468. Entitled, We Need One Another. I'll read the normal case letters, and if you could respond with the italics. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us.
Selena and Bill, you guys have just done like the whole sermon, so we're good. Thank you so much. What a wonderful, wonderful gift. And speaking of gifts, we are a free religion that needs to support itself, govern itself, work to support one another, and we do that through both time, talent, and of course, treasure. I invite the ushers forward. We will now receive the morning offering.
This reading is by Sheila Cassidy, and Sheila Cassidy was a prisoner of conscience in Chile before democracy came there. And she believes that all pain and suffering in the universe has a purpose in which she calls the divine economy. She writes as follows: I believe no pain is lost, no tear unmarked, no cry of anguish dies unheard, lost in the hail of gunfire or blanked out by the padded cell. I believe that pain and prayer are somehow saved, processed, stored, used in the divine economy. The blood shed in El Salvador will irrigate the heart of some financier a million miles away. The terror, the pain, the despair, swamped by lava, flood, or earthquake, will be caught up like the mist and fall again, a gentle rain on arid hearts, or souls despairing in the back streets of Brooklyn. A couple of years ago, I visited the Holocaust Museum and Education Center of Southwest Florida, right here in Naples. And for those of you who have not visited the Holocaust Museum, I encourage you to do so. The museum has many artifacts from the Holocaust that tell the stories of the brave men, women, and children who were not only victims of persecution, but also who lived meaningful and heroic lives in response to persecution. The tour is a rather sobering experience. The museum gives a historical accounting of the unbelievable cruelty of the Holocaust that claimed the lives of millions of people. But it also gives you this deep emotional understanding of what happened. And it really seeps into your soul, almost into the DNA of your spirit. And as I was coming to the end of the tour, I saw a collection of children's poetry on the walls that was especially moving. So I approached the woman who was greeting people at the door, hoping to get some more information from her about that poetry. The woman, Annalise, who spoke with a heavy Eastern European accent and a tremor in her voice, was gracious and helpful in answering my questions about Holocaust poetry. During our conversation, Annalise informed me in halting and carefully chosen English that she was Jewish, and that at the age of 5, she and her family were imprisoned in one of Hitler's concentration camps. Despite the daily experiences of death and persecution and fear, Annalise was able to survive the concentration camp, although she was the only member of her family to do so. After the war ended, Annalise told me that her and her husband settled in Czechoslovakia, only to have that country fall under the totalitarian reign of Soviet communism. Annalise recounted for me a conversation she had with her husband as they were sitting at the kitchen table. He said, "Annalise, we have lived under 2 totalitarian regimes. We owe it to ourselves and our children to try something different, something better. We need to go to the United States." So Annalise and her husband made plans to leave Czechoslovakia. They tried to escape to the West twice, but were caught and turned back by the border guards. However, on the 3rd attempt, they were successful and made it to Switzerland, where they got visas to enter the U.S. But their journey was not over. When they arrived in the United States, they had no money, no work, no family, and no friends. However, they met 2 very loving people who befriended them, who told them, "We have relatives in Milwaukee. Come with us, and we will make a life together." Annalise and her husband left for Milwaukee with their newfound friends, found work, and raised a family. But Annalise's struggles were not over. Not only was she to be a survivor of the death camp, but she was also to survive the death of her husband and her own breast cancer. So I could not help but ask her that with all her struggles and challenges in her life, how did she find the hope to continue? She paused, thinking carefully about what she was about to say. She then went on to say, "I don't think I would call it hope. It's different than hope. It's about survival. Each day, we are faced with hurdles and given a choice. Are you willing to go over the hurdles in front of you? In facing those hurdles, you must develop and draw upon an inner knowing that can come only from going over the hurdles one at a time, day by day." Some people call Annalise's inner knowing hope or determination, courage, stubbornness, integrity, or resiliency. I call it freedom. Everyone, sometime in their life, is challenged to survive difficult, traumatic, even life-threatening events. We become survivors of these events by using our own inner freedom to make choices about how we will react to these challenges and how we will lead our lives despite those challenges. As U.S. citizens and Unitarian Universalists, we are given great religious freedom. The freedom to find our own truth, the freedom to worship as we see fit, and the freedom to express ourselves. Annalise and the many other heroic people of the Holocaust are living examples of how to use freedom to choose courage over fear, action over paralysis, and hope over despair. And no matter how difficult the situation, we have the freedom to choose. The Monday after Thanksgiving 2012, I was given a choice about how I was going to use my freedom. I was sitting in my dermatologist's office waiting for the results of some tests. When the doctor came through the door, she said, "Well, you definitely have cancer, and it's definitely melanoma cancer." I don't remember much after that. Whatever my doctor said was lost in a blur of shock and disbelief. This was not supposed to happen to me. At 53, I was relatively young. I took care of myself, eating and exercising, and yet the tests didn't lie. I had cancer. This couldn't be happening, but in fact it was. I remember getting so angry at the doctors for not diagnosing me sooner, angry with myself for not seeking treatment sooner, angry at God and the world because I had this terrible disease just when my life seemed to be coming together. At this time, I was completing my seminary education. I had changed careers from law to ministry. And after a difficult divorce, I had found a woman I loved deeply and had been looking for my entire life. All my hard work was about to pay off. This really wasn't fair. It was supposed to happen to someone else, but it hadn't. It happened to me. I remember feeling such despair. Melanoma cancer, especially a deep melanoma such as mine, is not a good diagnosis. And my family has a history of people dying of cancer. In fact, one of my relatives even died from melanoma cancer. The doctors were able to surgically remove my tumor, and thankfully the cancer had not spread to other parts of my body. However, because the tumor was so deep, there's a good chance the cancer will return, and the 10-year mortality rate for people with similar cancers is about 50%. My cancer left me with so many questions. Why did this happen? How will I carry on and get through this? What if the cancer came back? How many years did I have left? What was I supposed to do with the rest of my life? I had so many questions to answer and so many decisions to make. What to do? The philosopher Nietzsche says, "Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Well, with all due respect to Nietzsche, he is wrong. He is very wrong. Some things happen that don't kill us, but can leave us broken forever. Some things happen that don't kill us, but leave us forever broken. Violence, poverty, physical and mental illness, death and loss change us, and frankly, many times not for the better. Whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger only if we recognize what is happening to us and then intentionally live out and incorporate and bring what we have learned from our experience to others. Figure out what's happening and bring it to others. I've been a hospital and hospice chaplain, but I was never a cancer patient. I've always been at the side of the bed, but never in the bed. However, what I've learned from my experience with cancer has changed my life and my ministry forever. So once I got through some of the shock and anger of my diagnosis and started reflecting upon my experience and integrating it, I remember thinking, I need to survive this disease so I can bring to the world what I've learned. So what have I learned? Suffering has an inner journey. A friend of mine asked me one day when she would get over the death of her father. We never get over a death or a significant loss. Getting over implies we can cure our loss by the passage of time and without understanding our pain and the magnitude of our loss. Instead of getting over our loss, we must go through our loss and fully embrace all the feelings that come with that loss. Life is really paradoxical. Many times when it comes to making choices and using our freedom, the right choice is not the most obvious or easiest choice. I recently heard a research psychologist say we cannot selectively feel our emotions. What she meant was that humans tend to want to feel only the pleasant emotions, like joy and peace and love, and minimize unpleasant feelings like sadness and anxiety and anger. Through her research, however, she discovered that we can't dull our ability to experience one kind of emotion without dulling our ability to experience all emotions. In other words, if we want to feel joy, we must also feel sadness. If we want to experience peace, we need to experience anxiety. And if we want to know the source of our love, we also need to know the source of our fear. If we try to desensitize ourselves to one feeling, all we do is anesthetize ourselves from life, never experiencing the full spectrum of our emotions and the fullness and depth of our lives. Many times we see the world as binary, a choice between two opposites. Something is up or it's down, good or evil, pleasant or awful. But life is messier and grayer and more complicated and ambiguous than that. When I was a hospital chaplain, I ministered to the family of a 15-year-old boy who was killed in a senseless shooting. I escorted the boy's aunt into the emergency room to see his body. As we both stood silently next to his body, I saw this large tear form in the inside corner of her eye. And as a chaplain, we're trained to watch for tears because they are signs of strong emotional and spiritual responses. People cry for all sorts of different reasons: sadness, stress, or even joy. The aunt's tear was one of the largest I had ever seen. And I watched it slowly roll down between her nose and cheek. And as it reached the end of her cheek, she had these big apple cheeks. And the tear moved downward and then upward and left her cheek kind of like a long-distance ski jumper, throwing herself and that tear into the air. And the tear landed on her blouse, and it burst into 1,000 droplets before being absorbed into her blouse. The tear was filled with the pain and anguish she felt over the loss of her nephew, but it was also filled with the deep felt love and affection she had for him. Life is complicated, and our lives are a mixture of many different, sometimes diametrically opposed emotions right in the same moment. As one of my seminary friends said, life is not only bittersweet, it is sweet bitter. In my previous work as a hospice chaplain, I visited people who had less than 6 months to live. Despite their diagnosis, patients and families are often in denial about their illnesses. Some families asked me not to even tell their loved ones I was a chaplain, or that I even worked for hospice, because that would confirm for their loved one that they were, in fact, dying. A fairly common response I heard when I asked people how they were coping emotionally with their diagnosis was, there isn't anything I can do about it, so why get upset by thinking about it? And I do respect their decision. Sometimes we need time to adjust, to change. And denial is a coping mechanism. It just isn't a very good one. Suffering and tragedy and loss and illness, death and other challenges are woven into the fabric of our lives. No one gets through this life without experiencing them. The question isn't, why do these things happen to us? But what do we do in response to them? Having experienced these challenges, how do we use our freedom to create new meaning and purpose for our lives and the world? My cancer diagnosis took away my illusion of invincibility, and I needed to mourn and grieve that loss. Grieving is hard, difficult work that takes time and effort and the support of loving people. This is part of the inward journey towards healing. However, if we do our work, if we engage our feelings, face our mortality, and understand we are not in control of our lives, we can eventually get to the other side. And when we get to the other side, we will realize that we are not over our loss, but instead are forever changed and transformed by our loss. And that is where we find hope. Healing ourselves brings new life, not only to ourselves, but also the world. Perhaps not physical healing, but emotional and spiritual healing. Our lives can be examples for others on how to use their freedom. We can't fix people, and no one, even those who have the same illness, can ever totally understand what it's like for another person to suffer. And yet, we can choose to walk with a person, their family and friends, as they make their journey. We can help people, should they choose, to find reconciliation, resolution, meaning, and most of all, hope. Hope that closes the gulf of estrangement and fear and separation that develops between us and the world when we are challenged. We can love people just as they are. We can love people just as they are, with all their anxiety and anger. Because by showing love, we help people realize they are, in fact, lovable. And once people realize they are lovable and supported by other people, then a healing can occur that transcends illness and reconciles estrangement. And is this healing that brings new life into the world. I don't tell you my cancer story because I'm some sort of hero. I'm definitely not a hero. And my experiences pale in comparison to Annalise or to the challenges faced by many people in this church. And I will never, ever be one of those people who says that because of the positive changes in my life, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. I will never, never, ever say that. If given the freedom to choose, I would choose never to have cancer. But although we don't have a choice about getting ill and dying, we can choose how to live in response to sickness and death. Each of us have varying degrees of freedom, even though none of us has complete freedom. Our freedom is limited by our childhood and our life experiences, by gender and class and education. We all have varying degrees of freedom. But we all have some freedom. And just because we don't have complete freedom doesn't mean we can't use the freedom we have to choose hope and peace and love. Some of you may say, how can my little freedom, my choice, change the world? Well, I can tell you it does. It does change the world. I remember every act of kindness, every word of support offered to me after I got my diagnosis. As our Unitarian Universalist principles remind us, we are part of the interconnected web of the universe. So, as Sheila Cassidy says, no cry is unheard, no pain lost. So too, no act of kindness goes unnoticed, nor is any act of compassion wasted. If prayer and pain are saved and processed and stored in the divine economy, so too are sympathy and understanding and acceptance. If blood shed in El Salvador irrigates the heart of some financier a million miles away, surely the tears shed on behalf of a dying person wash away the barriers that separate us. If terror and pain and despair caused by an earthquake will be caught up and fall like mist on the arid hearts of the despairing, so too must standing beside the oppressed bring the spring rain of hope and love and new life into the world. So when you experience challenges in life, choose to feel your pain, your loss, and your grief. For by feeling your pain and loss, you will also feel peace and healing and hope. Reflect upon your pain, and then take what you have learned and help others to heal. And in the process, heal yourself and heal the world. We are all survivors. Sitting next to you today are survivors of illness and abuse, discrimination, divorce, unemployment, poverty, homophobia, death of loved ones, addiction, disability, on and on and on. You are all survivors. The world is still not free from these forms of suffering. However, we have the freedom to choose how we will live our lives in response to suffering. Like Annalise, who survived so many challenges in her life, we have the freedom to choose. As circumstances change, our definition of hope may change. But there is always the freedom to choose, no matter the circumstance. And most importantly, to ultimately choose hope. I will leave you with these words by Macrinda Whitaker. I was just thinking one morning during meditation how much alike hope and baking powder are. Quietly getting what is best in me to rise awakening the hint of eternity within. I always think of that when I eat biscuits now, and wish I could be more faithful to the hint of eternity, the baking powder in me. May it be so.
Our final hymn this morning, number 168, One More Step, verses 1 through 4.
Our closing words are from Paul Robeson. Sorrow will one day turn to joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free. Amen.
A challenge for you as you go forth this week. Pay attention to the baking powder within you. May it give rise to that which is best. Share yourselves with the world. Go in peace. We welcome you back next week in love.